welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the new mini gold palette from NATASHA Denona. This retails for $33 Canadian on the Sephora website. It's a little bit less if you live in the US. It contains 5 eyeshadows and in my opinion it's a complementary palette to the original gold palette. I will get into it momentarily. Let's start off with some swatches of this. I do have an eye tutorial / demo coming up in this video, but we're going to start off with some good old-fashioned swatches just to give an idea of what these shadows look like. So, am I going to be able to do this? Let's start off. I'm going to do the thumb swatch first. So there's 1, 2, and as always, my arm is not primed, and that's just running my finger around a couple of times in the pan, and as you saw, just 1 swatch down. Swatches can be deceiving, but it gives you at least a starting idea of what the shades could potentially look like once they are applied. I will say the matte green, at least in the swatch, it's not showing up all that great. But once applied with a brush, it really does build up very quickly and very nicely. So this is one of those instances where the swatch can be a little deceptive because the shadow actually performs better than what it looks like just in a dry swatch. The metallic shades in here are absolutely beautiful, as I would expect from NATASHA Denona. And again, those mattes are nice and soft and very buildable. Now, my concern when buying mini palettes is that I'm buying pre-existing shades from a larger palette. That is not the case with this one. So I do have the original gold palette as well. Even just looking at the shade names, I can see that there's no overlap in the exact shades. But looking at the colors that are available in each palette, while there are definite similarities, which I would expect, there is no direct overlap. I really like that the mini incorporates some greens because I think the greens play so nicely with the golds and the browns that are in this palette, and there are no real greens in here. The closest to green that you're going to get is this like duochromatic shade up here. But that matte olive green I think is just such a perfect addition and works so well with not only this palette, which I consider to be a standalone palette all on its own, but also you can incorporate a lot of these shades if you do happen to have this palette already. Having said that, I don't think you have to have the larger palette in order for this to make cohesive eye looks. I'm using all of the shades on my eyes today. While you're not going to get a huge variety of looks from a 5-pan palette, and that would be for any 5-pan palette, I think that this is one that if you just wanted something really quick to grab and go if you were going away for a weekend or something like that, this contains all that you need to create a full eye look. I really like the layout of this. There have been others, more so in her larger 5-pan palettes, like the $60 ones, that I have a couple of them and I'm like, okay, you're pretty, but I still have to bring in others just to round the look out. That's not the case with this one. Now there is one shade in here in particular that I want to swatch against a shade in the original, and that's the sparkly gold one. So in this palette it's called Door, and then in this palette it is Brass. So this one is Brass, this one is Door. So Brass and Door. I'm sure it's like duh or something. It's French, but I don't do French accents. So even in looking at them, they're close. They are not the same. There is definitely a more deep golden aspect to the one from the mini palette. Both beautiful, similar, not the same. The other shadows that are in here, there is no close counterpart in the original palette, so I'm quite pleased about that. As I do the eye demo, I do mention some of the fallout that's created in that matte olive shade, but before we dive into that, I just want to do an overview, and that is these perform every bit as well as the standard size do. I have found that some of her minis are a little hit or miss. There have been some that I just haven't been wild about. They're just a little bit more stiff than her usual formula. That is not the case here. These mattes are so creamy and blendable, and again, those shimmery shadows are just so good. I did apply it with a brush today. You could apply it with just a finger, but I do like that with these shades you can pick them up with a brush. I've mentioned it in other videos. I have come across shimmery shadows that just will not stick to a brush no matter what I do, and I have to use my fingers. That is not the case here, which I appreciate because fat little fingers don't always get the exact placement that I want them to, whereas a brush can really get into sort of the finer areas, especially on the inner portion of my lids. So overall, I think that this is a winner, but you want to see it in action. So let's get straight into the tutorial. All right, so I'm going to start off with this shade over here called Lodge. It's just a really nice light beige, and I'm going to use a fluffy brush for that. This one is the 785 Tapered Blending from Delium, and I'm going to put that into the crease and blend it up. My eyes are already primed with MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre, and then set with an eyeshadow that's the same color as my skin, just to help with the blending. To add some more dimension, I'm going to go in with that olive green shade over here. It's called Bia, B-I-A, I don't know. This one right here. The brush I'm using is the Tapered Blending, the E35 from Sigma. I will say that shadow does produce more kick up than the other matte. It's not bad. I'll hold it up and hopefully it'll translate on camera. You can see it there in the pan. It's really not bad, but you definitely want to knock off the excess from your brush. This is one of those nice ones though that even when you pick it up and do tap it off, it's not like all of the powder falls off of your brush. I do have that with some other shadows. So a lot stays on. I'm not seeing any of it falling down onto my cheeks. It blends really nicely, but I do mention that just because some people are a little fussy about the level of kick up in the pan. Okay, I have not thought through what I'm going to do. Okay, just so that I can use all five, I'm going to keep it really simple and straightforward. Rather than doing the two shimmery shades on top of my lid, I'm just going to use this one, and then I'll use this one as an inner corner highlight just so that it's somewhere. Okay, I need a brush. My son dropped my brush container, which holds probably like 40 to 50 brushes and also about 5 pounds of rice. And he pulled the whole thing off of my desk. There was rice everywhere. Thankfully, Barry picked it up for me, which was amazing and totally unnecessary. But now all my brushes are not the way that they are supposed to be. And also there's rice sticking out of all of them, so that's fun. Thank you, Bennett. You gotta love 2-year-olds, right? Okay, I'm gonna come in with a nice flat shader brush. This one is from Lottie London, and there's no name on it, so just a flat shader brush will do. I'm going to pick up this shade over here, which is called, good lord, Anthea? Anthea, I don't know. You're not here for the pronunciation lessons. Okay, just to make sure that it is as impactful as possible, I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of setting spray. There we go. Get out of my face. And then just pat it, after I clean my brush, and then just pat it across the lid. She's pretty. I like that. Oh, I really like that. I thought it was going to be like one of those like brown green shifts. It just kind of has that look in the pan, but it's like a metallic olive and it's really pretty. For my lower lash line, I'm going to go in with this dark shade first. It's called Dark Sepia. Sepia? Sepia. I am just like batting zero on these shade names. Okay, I'm going to take a very flat defined brush here. This one is the Flat Definer from Luxie, the number 221. To soften that a bit, I'm going to go back into that matte olive green shade here. This brush is from Makeup Forever and it's the 212. It's like a really flexible pencil brush, so I'm hoping that it'll be good for blending out the lower lash line. You can see how blending that out with a lighter shade just makes it look a little less harsh than just leaving it as is. Even if you don't use another shade and you just blend the darker shadow out, it will become softer and a little bit smokier. And that's personally the look that I like better. I just find this to be a little stark. All right, and then finally for my inner corner highlight, I'm going to use that sparkly gold one called Door. Hello, Luna. Did you go for a good walk with Dad? Eh? And that's really gold. I can't say that I'm wild on it as an inner corner highlight. I think it's a little too dark for my liking, but it's on there now. We're gonna live with it for this time, but I don't think I'd use it as an inner corner one. Again, not on my skin tone, but it is beautiful. It's a gorgeous gold, very reflective. I think it'd be beautiful on the lids, just not keen on the placement right now. But what I'm going to do is put on liner and mascara, come back, show you the final look, and then wrap this puppy up. Be right back. Okay, and there is the final look. I just added a little bit of liquid eyeliner and then mascara. Just did a little like flick on the end there, not a full out wing, just to keep it simple. I have to say I really like this palette. I really like it. I think it's a standalone palette all on its own, but I also think it complements the gold palette really well. I'm very happy that I picked it up. I hope Natasha Denona continues to put out high quality mini palettes like this. The price is just so much more accessible than the larger palettes, and I could see myself picking up pretty much any one of these that she puts out, but this one really drew me in. I'm not disappointed by it, and I'm very happy that I purchased that. Okay guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.
Oh, hello, pretty girl. Are you going to be filming a video or are you in the middle of one?
I'm currently filming.
Oh, is my voice in here?
You're on candid camera, baby.
Oh, yay.